our common life, and bring us all to be of one heart and mind within your holy church. Through Jesus Christ our Lord. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Bishop. All right, good morning, everyone. You'll notice that during our prayer we had a large voice of respondents, and that's because our Committee on Resolutions is joining us here. We are broadcasting live from Mayo Memorial Church House in Richmond, and we're really excited to have such a large group register for the pre-council open hearing. We have over 100 folks registered, so hopefully this will be a fulsome conversation we have today. So before we get started with the open hearing on resolutions, I'd like to share with you a little bit of housekeeping information. We're going to start with the open hearing on resolutions, as I just said. Excuse me. We'll take a brief break in between each of the sessions. So resolutions is getting started now at about 10. Around 11, we'll move on to budget, and then move on to Constitution and Canons. Please note that the stop and start times listed on the screen are approximations, and they depend on the amount of the conversation debate we have during today's webinar. So some people will be joining us later, some people just so they can participate in particular sessions, but we'll try and move with an eye on the time. We'll definitely move on no later than 11:10 for budget, but it could be earlier than that depending upon the conversation surrounding resolutions. If you have technical difficulties during today's session, please send an email to Kendall Martin. She's sitting right next to me here, and she will be monitoring your email throughout the session. Her email address you can see on the screen is kmartin@thediocese.net, and she's going to do her best to assist you. As a side note, the webinar is being recorded, and it will be posted on the council website on Monday. So if you do run into any technical difficulties that are not resolvable, you'll still be able to hear the conversation that did go on today. And you can send your comments via email to the respective committees as well. That information can also be found on the council website. If you joined for the, prior to this session, I reminded folks that the best way to connect to audio is most likely via the telephone for most folks. If you have a USB headset, that's a good alternative option. We just ask that you do not connect using your internal computer, microphone, and speakers, because if we unmute you to speak, that can cause an echo effect and some interference there. So here is how the day is going to work. You'll note that you're all currently placed on mute, so we don't have 100 folks talking at once. The committee is going to introduce a resolution, and that resolution will appear on the screen that you see right here before you. You'll also see a camera view of the committee members instead of my face for the whole session. If you'd like to share a comment or a question, please click the raise hand button. It's this. You should see it on your control panel. It's on the left-hand side there. It's a blue circle with a hand and an arrow on it. If you raise your hand, I will be notified of that. And when the committee invites discussion, I will go through the list of people who have raised their hands, and I will unmute you one at a time. And I will say, Jane Smith, you're off of mute now. Please address the committee. And then the committee can respond to any questions. You can speak with the committee and make any necessary clarifications as needed. Then when you're finished your comment, you'll be placed back on mute. There are a few rules to keep in mind. Participants must identify themselves. So that's by name and church. Please also note your capacity at council, lay delegate, alternate, or canonically resident clergy, or an ex officio member. If you are not a member of council, please also make that clear in your identification as well. Participants may not speak more than twice in the same debate, and participants should observe a 2-minute time limit. And we will be keeping time and will notify you if you exceed that limit. So those are all of the details. I'll add a note that we have, this will be our first webinar, and so we're going to do our best to make things work for everybody. And if you have any questions, we'll try and get them answered. Thank you for bearing with us. If there are any bumps in the road, but I anticipate smooth sailing ahead. If you'll give me just a couple quick seconds, I'm going to turn the camera over to the Committee on Resolutions, and then you'll hear from co-chairs Phoebe Rope and Jenks Hobson in just 1 moment. So we're going to move the webcam just a little bit, and we'll be right back in about 30 seconds. Okay, I'm going to make an adjustment there so the webcam is a better view. All right, there we go. Say hi, Resolutions Committee. Hi. Okay, so I'm going to now turn things over to James and Phoebe, and you can get started with our day's session.
My name is Doug Thompson. My co-chair Phoebe Roth is next to me. We thank you for joining us in this experiment in 21st century church. We want to make sure that we understand that the sense of what we're about today is an opportunity for delegates to gain a better understanding of the proposals and procedures for resolutions and later for budget and for Constitution and Canons. This is not a time for debate. We'll do that together on the floor of council. This is the time to ask questions, hear, and understand what the three resolutions before us are about. The first resolution, R1, accepting our duty of care for God's creation. This resolution is a part of a long history of our dialogue with one another about the needs of climate change and our society. It invites us to consider, pray, and act. Is there anyone who has a comment to make on this?
Okay, I'll scroll through and see if there are any hands raised.
Anybody raising your hand?
Let's see, I see Amitri.
Hi, Emily.
Hi, how are you?
And hi, committee. Question, was that the full text of the resolution? Because I see something up on the screen for Microsoft Word, and I'm not sure what I'm looking at.
You're looking at the whereases. We cannot, it's a long set of whereases and resolutions. Putting it all on the screen is difficult.
Okay. Is there a place to get the text of that?
On the website of the diocese, go to council, go to resolutions, and you'll find the text.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you, Amitri.
Any member of the committee have something they would like to say about this resolution? Any ideas of clarification? Yeah.
I think it's worth noting that the resolution cites the scientific body of evidence so far for the warming of the Earth's atmosphere and the concentration of greenhouse gas emissions, taken primarily from such sources as the World Meteorological Organization, the UK Meteorology Office, and our own in the U.S., NOAA, National Ocean Traffic and Atmospheric Administration.
Thank you, sir. Anybody else on the committee? Any other hands raised, Emily?
Let me do a quick run through. Okay, I see one more hand raised. That's Diane Miller. You are off of mute and you can speak with the committee. Please identify yourself and your church before speaking. Thank you.
Good morning. This is Diane Miller. I'm president of Region 5 and a member of St. Timothy's Herndon. Although I appreciate the intent of this resolution, I fear there are just as many reputable sources that can be cited for an opposing view of whether or not climate change is a man-made effect, or rather it's simply a natural occurrence through the millennia. And my concern is that these whereases almost mitigate the value of your resolved paragraph. Because I do believe that we are all responsible for God's creation, whether it's the earth itself or our fellow human beings. So that's my feedback.
Just simply procedurally, be aware that the whereases present the mover's case, but when we're done, it's the resolve that goes forward. So resolve is the important part.
All right, I'm going to put Diane back on mute, and I see another hand raised. Now we're going to go to John Chilton. John, you are currently speaking with the committee. Please identify yourself and your church and your role.
Good morning. It's John Chilton, and
Morning.
I'm a guest. I am a member of Bedford Parish. And my observation is purely a technical one. I'm wondering, instead of putting up the Word document, we could just go to the language straight as it's seen on the web page. That might make it easier for people to find the resolutions.
I can give that a try and see if that would be easier.
One of my points is it applies to some of the other resolutions as well. It would make it easier to watch them that way.
Yeah, that does seem to be a little bit of a better view. John, do you think that's a bit of an improvement?
It's better for me. Yes, thank you. That's all I had.
We'll place you back on mute. Okay, I'm going to do another scan through for other raised hands.
Any other members of the committee have comments they would like to make? Questions to ask?
Tom Baker, you are now off of mute and you can speak with the committee.
I'm sorry, I pressed the wrong button.
No worries, Tom. Okay, Phoebe and Jenks, I believe that is all that I see for R1.
Thank you. Reminder to all those listening that we will have another hearing on Thursday afternoon as we gather for council before we move to our session reporting back to you in action and debate on the floor on Friday. Moving us on to R2, the name of the annual diocesan meeting. Resolved that in the spirit of reconciliation, the name of the annual meeting of the Episcopal Church in the Diocese of Virginia be changed from council to convention. This relates to a resolution passed last year forming a committee who has produced a report, and that report is available at the website, I believe. Yes. That report is available. The full report is available. This is the action part of that report, which becomes a resolution before this committee. It will be voted on at council, and if it is passed, the Constitution and Standing Committee is prepared to act on that, as I understand. Just being clear on the procedure, we pass the principle here, or we vote on the principle here, and then the action to effect it will come later. Is anybody raising their hand?
Case, I see that your hand is raised. Could you please identify yourself and speak with the committee?
Yes, good morning. My name is Case Ramey. I'm the rector of All Saints Sharon Chapel in Alexandria. My question for the committee is if you would be able to expand a little bit on the choice of the words in the spirit of reconciliation, and why that phrase and maybe no other phrases were chosen for this particular resolution. Reconciliation, a laudable goal, and certainly appropriate in this instance. I guess I wonder, there are other reasons for matters of justice and others that might be additional parts of the spirit of why one would need to change the name from council to convention, and I'd be curious to hear about the decision of this choice of wording.
In general, in terms of the choice of wording, there are, if you read the report, there are several rationales, practical and concerning reconciliation. I would encourage you all to read all the parts that are there. We will not try to read that report today. Would anybody like to address the issue of reconciliation as a choice? Having read the report, but not a part of the committee, I can offer a thought, but not necessarily an answer. The report offers the idea that this is a legacy of the Civil War and therefore has a racist implication, and this is about reconciliation, continuing reconciliation, which is certainly an issue in our society, particularly recently, over issues of racism. That's my answer, not the committee's answer.
Thank you. I would close then by offering some consideration around a theology of reconciliation that does not ground itself in repentance initially, or at least as part of that process. And I, having looked at the report, see that there are lots of reasons that are addressed. Just for consideration that if all we do is start with reconciliation without repentance, the reconciliation may not be as effective or as deep as one might hope. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much for your comment.
Okay.
Any member of the committee have something to say? Any more hands raised, Ms. Emily?
All right, let me scroll through here. Gregory King, you are off of mute and you can speak with the committee now.
Hi, I'm Greg King. I'm the lay delegate from St. Paul's and Bailey's Crossroads. I would just like to speak a little to the note that was made at the beginning of this discussion, that this resolution wouldn't actually change the name of council, I believe is what you're being said, but that would require a constitutional amendment. And so as written, I don't think that this resolution kind of really explains that, and I hope that the committee would explain that, whatever action procedurally would need to happen here, whether it's the council is asking for a resolution to create an amendment, or asking the Constitution Committee to draft an amendment or something like that, because right now it's kind of a non-binding resolution that won't actually do anything.
This resolution and our debate and discussion and vote on it will decide what the Constitution and Canons Committee does. I understand they will be prepared to offer us the first year of vote on that in its proper details. And constitutional changes take 2 years, so we would have to vote again on it next year. So procedurally, that will be approached as the vote goes on the floor of council. Their report to you is after our report. The first vote is about the issue itself. The implementation is prepared to follow as the vote goes. Does that answer your question?
I would say that the wording of this resolution currently does not reflect an actual action to be taken by council, or does not direct that committee to take any action.
Okay. We will take that. We're taking notes on all suggestions.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Gregory. You're back on mute now. See, we have Kent Rom on the line here. Kent, you're taken off of mute and can speak with the committee.
Hi, this is Kent Rom. I'm the rector of Trinity Church in Fredericksburg. Just a simple comment. It seems to me that obviously this doesn't do anything huge. It's a fairly internal issue, the idea of council versus convention, but it is a gesture. It's at least trying to say that we're trying to move on from some of our history, move on towards an idea of better racial reconciliation, acknowledging that there is a reason to do so. It's a simple thing. I certainly am supportive of it. I like the idea.
Thank you, Ken.
Okay, I'm scrolling through. Let's see. Amitri Bean, you are off mute and you can speak with the committee. Amitri, did you have anything? I don't hear anything from Amitri. If you do have a question, feel free to use the question feature to send it in if you can't get the audio working. Continue to scroll through. All right, I don't see any more hands or questions. Let's see if we have one. Barbara, Allison, Brian, did you have something, or was that just a button misstep?
No, it was not a button misstep. I'm Barbara Allison Bryan. I worship at Abingdon Church in Gloucester, and I'm a member of the Standing Committee. Last year at Council, I must say that when this was first discussed, that I didn't have a good feeling. I thought that we were doing a lot of navel gazing, and I was surprised that this was an issue. As I've had an entire year to think about it, as I've read the reports, I agree strongly with Kent that that it is a gesture. It's probably more than a gesture, and our words speak a lot about who we are. And my initial response to this discussion last year, I am deeply sorry for. So I am very glad that it's come back with more information. Thank you.
Thank you, Barbara.
All right, I'm doing another scan through to see if there are any.
Anybody else in the city have anything for clarification?
See, I have a couple more comments here. Steve Bevis, you have now been placed off of mute. You can go ahead. Steve?
Yeah, I must have hit the wrong button. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry about that. No worries. Let's see. What about you, Amitri? Did you have something? Okay, I can't hear anything from you, Amitri. If you're having trouble with audio, there is a question feature, and you can use that to type in your question, and I can read it out loud on your behalf. I'm going to give a couple more seconds in case anyone who's having trouble with audio can send in a question. So y'all will just sit tight with me one more minute before we move on. Okay, there we go. Okay, I'm going to read this on behalf of the Reverend Deacon Amitri Monica Bean. Amitri is serving at Little Fork, is that right? Yes, Amitri, you're at Little Fork, great. What Amitri has to say is, as a black female clergy, I want to thank Kent for his comment. I think this is more than a gesture. It would be very meaningful. All right, the committee has received that.
Thank you, ma'am. I'm assuming she could hear us.
Yes, I believe she can. Thank you for sending that in, Amitri.
Are there any other comments on R2?
See, I see one more. John Chilton, you're off mute now.
Hi, John Chilton, back again. I'm a guest, a member of Bedford Parish, and you've been hearing about the reports, and I know that some folks have found it difficult to find the reports, but actually they're right there in the background. The two words that say here, they're both hyperlinks, and that's where you click to see the task force report, and then Julia Randall's much longer historical background on council versus convention. That's it.
Thank you, John.
Thank you, John. Emily's searching again to see if anybody's raised their hand.
All right, let's see. I don't see any other hand raises on this one. All right, I think we're...
Any other committee comments? That moves us on R2. Brings us to R3, and end the Boy Scouts of America discrimination policy. The clarification is that within the Boy Scouts, they have changed their policy in terms of members, but not in terms of leadership. And this resolution seeks to ask them to finish the job, if you will, and take care of removing discrimination for leaders.
Jinx, I made a mistake and missed a question from R2. Do
Okay.
you mind if I switch back to that? Alex Riffey had a question. Sorry I missed that earlier, Alex. It was, I have a question about what our role in response to the committees should be. Alex, I'm going to place you off. Alex, did you want to speak more to that question?
Tell me, can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can hear you just fine. Thank you.
I'm Alex Riffey. I'm at St. James Louisa, canonically resident priest. I was just wondering, just to clarify, if we see something where we're just not sure of what's going on, our role, I suppose, is we just ask for clarification, or are we to offer opinion as well? Because it seems that there's been a lot of the latter, and I don't know if the latter is to give opinion on the merit of something, or is it based on just language of a resolution? Since I'm rather new, I just would like clarification about if I see something, what's the most appropriate way I can respond?
You can ask a question or make an opinion. We are trying to avoid the issue. We're going to debate the issue here, but certainly
Right.
opinions and questions are part of what we need to hear.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. With Alex's comment, it's back on mute, Alex, sorry.
Sure.
There you go. I'm going to do one last spin through in case that changed anybody, and see if there are any more comments on R2.
Did Alex want to express something? I wouldn't.
Okay, I think no, he did not.
Okay.
We are good to go on to R3 now.
R3 asks the Boy Scouts of America to remove their policy of discrimination against LGBT folks in terms of leadership positions within Scouts.
This is a long resolution, and so I won't be able to show all of it on the screen at once, I'm afraid. And for those who are having trouble or need to see the whole thing, if you go to this website that you see at the top of the screen here, you can scroll through and read the whole thing. You would just lose sight of the video feed for a moment. But just want to let people know about that.
Does the committee have any comments to make? Any questions or clarifications? We did pass a resolution in support of the change that occurred in discrimination against boys and their membership. If the sponsor is online, it would be very helpful to hear from them.
Mary, Mary Coate, I took you off mute, but I'm not sure you have audio. Can you try and talk and let us know if you have a comment? Yeah, I don't see that you're connected via audio. So if you could submit your question via the question feature instead of the raise hand, then I can read it out loud because I don't believe you're connected via audio.
Mary Coates is a member of St. Peter's, Purcellville, and president of Region 13.
I do not, Skip Barchers is the submitter of this resolution, and I don't see him present on this webinar. Here's what Mary had to say, and Mary, I'm going to read this on your behalf. Mary said, I am troubled by the term sacred defiance. Mary, if you'd like to add anything else onto that, I'm happy to read that on your behalf as well. Amitri Bean has also sent in a written comment. Amitri is a deacon from Little Fork. I was at the debate last year. Have any other groups been identified with the same issue is her question.
I'm not sure what you mean by any other groups, other than Boy Scouts or other than the sponsor.
Dimitri, if you want to send some clarification on that question by what you mean by other groups. Dimitri says, are there any other groups like the Boy Scouts in this position?
Any comments from the? I'm not sure about that.
Okay, so we don't know the answer.
And it's not addressed in the resolution.
Mary Coate has clarified her, or added on to her comment. Her first comment, if you'll remember, was, I am troubled by the term sacred defiance. She added that, it seems to me that this is a very divisive issue, and I don't understand why the council is taking up this issue. That's Mary's comment.
First off, Mary and everybody, we take up any issue that you all put before us. Any member of council has the right to submit a resolution. Parishes, a variety of places resolutions can come from, parishes, regions, members of council, and we take whatever you offer us and we try to deal with it. Try to have a dialogue within the diocese if people ask for it. Then we try to present something that will be productive to vote on.
My sense from the debate last year and the resolution as presented this year is that it has to do with respecting the dignity of every human being as outlined in our baptismal covenant, and that this was the genesis. And there are things which are deeply divisive that do have to be addressed in an effort to be respectful of all and to see Christ in every person.
And I'll say this carefully in terms of Dimitri's question. Boy Scouts has been particularly high profile in this struggle. My Girl Scout friends tell me they don't have this is not an issue, and I don't mean whether they resolved it or it hasn't raised. Boy Scouts has been particularly high profile, and I suggest that's why this resolution is here.
I have a hand raised from Cindy Bartol. Cindy, you're now off mute and can speak with the committee.
Cindy Bartol, Christ Church, Alexandria. I would just like to request that when a member of the committee speaks, that person identify themselves also. Most times that a committee member has addressed the resolution, we don't know who's speaking. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Cindy. Good idea.
Thank you. This is Phoebe Roth. I'm the rector of St. Philip's in Richmond and the dean of Region 11 and a member of the committee.
Co-chair of the committee.
Thanks, Cindy. All right, I'm doing a last scroll through. I see Alex Riffey, you're off mute and you can speak with the committee.
Thank you. Again, Alex Riffey from St. James, Louisa. I was looking at R3 and at the proposed general convention text of that, and I just wanted clarification what one sentence might be saying. It says, condemn and advise the BSA that the Episcopal Church, consistent with their baptismal covenant resolution, can no longer allow its name or facilities to be used by organizations that have discrimination. If there are churches that were currently, even if it wasn't Boy Scouts of America, if they found themselves having these organizations have meetings at their parish, if this passed, would this just simply be a recommendation, or would this be something that would say that from a diocesan standpoint we should try to say that unless we can't offer that anymore?
My opinion is, as my understanding of the church, this would be a recommendation.
Okay, thank you.
Any comments from the committee? What's your name?
I have two additional comments that have been submitted in written form, and I'd like to read them aloud on behalf of the speakers. First is from Amitri Bean. Part of my concern is that we are focusing on the high-profile group and not the systemic issue. Perhaps that is a way the resolution could be improved.
Thank you, ma'am.
The next written comment is submitted from Mary Coate. This is a clarification or an addition on her previous comment. Is this not an issue internal to the Boy Scouts? Parishes such as St. Peter's would have to reconsider our relationship with the Boy Scouts, as family values are important to us.
Whatever way a vote on this goes, that's probably an issue for one group or another. That is true.
I have a hand raised from Brad Jackson. Brad, you're currently off mute and can speak with the committee.
My name's Brad Jackson. I'm from Little Fork Church in Rixeyville. My thought was that this first resolve might be strengthened if an opposing position was not characterized by the words fear, ignorance, and bigotry.
Thank you, Brad.
I'm doing another scroll through
We're on a
here.
final scroll through, looking to see if anybody has raised their hand, checking the screen to see if anyone has submitted questions.
Robert Friend, I see you have a question, and you're currently placed off of mute, and you can speak with the committee.
Yes, this is Bob Friend, the interim rector at St. John's in Tappahannock. I just wanted to say that most rectors, I don't think, or vestries really know who was running the Boy Scouts of the troop of their congregations. I remember one time when I was rector of a church in Northern Virginia, I was almost sued. The church was almost sued because of their leadership, questions about leadership. I just want to make sure that the church is not opening itself up to frivolous suits if we pass this resolution. So that's my only comment, that we need to be careful about opening ourselves up to litigation. Thank you.
Thank you, Bob.
Quite honestly, Bob, as head of institution, is the language for a troop and a pack at our church. I have to sign off on every leadership that comes. I guess anytime we engage in ministry, we open ourselves up to something. We need to be careful. Any other comments from the committee?
Okay.
Ms. checking for more questions or hand raising?
After a final scroll through, I do not see any additional comments or questions for R3.
My thanks to all who have joined us for this, either whether listening or contributing, to the staff for helping us work out how to do this. Would remind you there will be an additional hearing. There's another question up when we finish the comment. There will be an additional hearing at 4:30, am I correct? On Thursday the 22nd?
That is correct.
And then we will make our final considerations as a committee and report to you on Friday, according to the agenda. One more question, ma'am?
A final comment from Mary Coate. I think that ought to be up to the individual parishes. Thank you, Mary.
I just would like to add, Mary, that's a good point, because that's the way it is. Nothing is binding about this, that we have to do something. It's a call for action, as I understand it, as I understand how our church works.
Okay, great. Thanks, folks.
Thank you all very much.
We are going to take a quick break. Thanks to the Committee on Resolutions and to the co-chairs, Jenks and Phoebe, for leading us through this. Let's see. It is 10:43 right now. We're going to get started back here around 10:55, looking around the room just to check and make sure if everybody's okay. It's a few minutes earlier than planned, but I'd like to honor everybody's time and not keep you all waiting too long. So if you could just sit tight at home, grab a cup of coffee, and we'll be getting started in about 10 minutes at 10:55. You can just stay, keep your computer screen up. You don't have to log off and log on. We'll turn off the webcam temporarily and place ourselves on mute so you don't hear shuffling around, but we'll be back shortly. Thank you so much, folks. Thanks for your patience, everybody. We're going to be getting started in just a minute here. We're getting settled in, and we're almost ready to start with the budget open hearing. Okay, folks, it's Emily Cherry back. I'm the Communications Director, and I'll be facilitating the open hearing on budget that we are about to get into. If you're just joining the webinar, we have already finished the resolutions open hearing. This will be recorded and posted to the website, Annual Council website, on Monday, this entire session. If you have a question, I'd like to ask you to click on the blue raise hand button on the left-hand side of your control panel. And I will unmute you and then acknowledge you so you can ask your question. And again, that looks like this. Sorry for that. So if you have a question, you're going to be clicking the raise hand button. If for some reason you have trouble with the audio, you can send in a question, a written question, and I will read that out loud on your behalf. So for now, I'm going to get started with the budget. I've put the budget up on the screen, and hopefully you can see that. I'll scroll to the appropriate budget line when somebody speaks to that, so we can, hopefully everybody can see it at one time. It's a long document, so I can't show the entire thing on the screen right now. Now I'm going to turn on our webcam so that everybody can see the lovely Committee on Budget. All right, there they are. Hi, guys. Okay, so I'm going to turn things over now to Karen Grain, Chair of the Committee. Thanks, Karen.
Thank you, Emily. Welcome to the open pre-council hearing on the budget. What I'd like to do first is introductions of the committee. My name is Karen Grain, and I'm from St. Paul's, Alexandria, and Chair of the Budget Committee.
I'm Ted Smith. I'm your diocesan treasurer.
I'm Patricia Gallagher with St. John's in Tappahannock.
I'm Joe Paxton with Emmanuel Harrisonburg.
I'm Mary Frances Lamont, Trinity, Washington.
I'm Helen Spence, St. Christopher's in Springfield.
Paul Rolls, St. Peter's, New Canaan.
Kathy Gion, St. Margaret's, Whitbridge.
Tom Gully, Christ Church, Millwood.
Madeline Morvis, Trinity Episcopal Church, Fredericksburg.
Peter Ackerman, St. Christopher's, Springfield.
Steve Wackenfeld. Grace Keswick.
And the purpose of the hearing today is to listen to your comments, to take, basically to listen. This is a listening process where the committee will not really debate what you have to say, but definitely listen to what you have to say about the budget and any amendments. And a couple of rules are just that unless you comment or make a suggestion regarding amending the budget today at this pre-council hearing or during the open hearing that we'll have during annual council, that you really cannot make a floor amendment then at council when we're considering the budget. So we have to have that beforehand. And that if you do make an amendment to the diocesan budget, it includes the provision if you want to increase a category, then we'll need the offset for that. But it needs to remain in the same category. because it's not like we're going to increase ministries and take away from the budget or staff. So it has to remain in that same category. And the budget that has been posted and the budget that is up on the screen right now, it's when you're talking about an amendment you'd like to make, if you could tell us what page it's on, then also there are categories, say A, general support of the church, B, ministry areas. If you could mention what the category is and then go fine-tune it through maybe like B1C, if that's something that, which would be parish ministries, parish youth, I'm sorry. So that would be helpful for the committee to understand what line item you're talking about. And that's it.
All right, great. So again, if you have comments, please click the raise hand button, and I will place you off of mute so you can speak with the committee. Don't everybody raise your hand at once. See, we have a comment from Case Ramey. Case, you've been placed off mute and can speak with the committee.
Hi, my name is Case Ramey. I'm the rector of All Saints Sharon Chapel in Alexandria. I had a question about a clarification on the rules. I was under the impression previously that to offer an increase, one must also at the same time offer the offset that it comes from. Could you say more about the, I heard it has to be within the same category? Because that's new to me. So could you clarify that, please?
In the same area.
It has to be in the same area. It's not that you can't, if you're going to increase something in a ministry area is in the diocese, which is B. If you want to increase one of those line items, that the offset should come from one of those line items also. And that has been my understanding that we've done this for years.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thanks, Case. Let's see, I believe we have a question from Margaret Jones. Margaret, did you have a question you'd like to voice? I placed you off of mute. Okay, I don't see an audio connection. Margaret, I see that you submitted a question, but if you could resubmit that, that might be helpful. If you want to resubmit that in writing. Dimitri, you're currently placed off mute, and you can speak with the committee.
Hi. First, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Good morning, committee. My name is Dimitri Dean. I'm a deacon serving at Little Fork Episcopal Church in Rixieville, Virginia, Region 1. My question is this, and it relates to the diaconate. First, I'm not sure what category this would fall under because I'm not that familiar with how the budget works. But not all parishes that have deacons are able to support them to the same level or reimburse their expenses in the same fashion. And this creates disparities in the ability of deacons to participate in diocesan ministry and also their ability to minister even at the local level. Even if I wanted to offer a change to the budget, what area of the budget would deacons fall under?
I think that's formation.
For 4E, Commission on the Diaconate.
Not formation. That's formation. Does it have more formation or is that
formation?
Would it be in the bishop's staff and support?
I think we'd have to have a discussion about that.
Yeah. We'd have to have a discussion on that and issue a clarification.
Well, we appreciate your comments, and we certainly are going to be looking into that, and we'll issue a clarification regarding that. That's something that I believe the diocesan staff, the treasurer, and canon in the ordinary will be talking about.
And to be clear, this would be support for deacons who are expenses related to deacons who are out there in the field now versus formation.
That is correct. I'm an ordained deacon, and I'm speaking right now to deacons who have already been ordained, but who tend to be serving at small parishes, rural parishes, where the ability to pay even just travel expenses to council. For instance, I'm sharing a room with another deacon at council, first of all, because our parishes just can't afford to send us. And it was a question of trying to figure out a way we could go to council without becoming another burden on the parishes where we serve.
Well, thank you. We really, truly appreciate that, and I think that's something that the canon, the ordinary, and the bishops and the treasurer will be looking into, really get more clarification on that issue.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mitri. Okay, I'm going to do another scroll through to identify new questions. I have a question from Margaret Jones. She has submitted via writing. Margaret's question is about the Committee on Congregational Missions. Why is Trinity Highland Springs listed when they are closing February 7th, 2015? Somebody could identify that page for me. I will scroll to that section.
Sure, they're on the
page
they're
1.
on the first
page at the bottom.
2B.
Yeah.
And they're about.
There we go. Right where my arrow is
way down. Right. So they're on the list because they received funding in 2014. As you can see, the allocation, the church-by-church allocation, has not been determined just yet. So,
however, CCM has clarified that they will not receive any funding in 2015.
Right. Okay. So, just for volume purposes, Bishop Goff has clarified that CCM has determined that Trinity won't be receiving support in 2015.
And what that line item, as you can see, it is a, for lack of a better term, a block of money, and that the Committee on Congregational Missions will decide once this budget's approved. It's the committee that will make the allocations. So what you see on the budget, it's the allocation for 2014 only.
Okay. Thank you, Margaret. Scrolling through, looking for new questions. Just click the raise hand button. Yeah, I'm not seeing anything right now. See, Kent Rom. Kent, you are now placed off of mute, and you can speak with the committee.
This is Kent Rom. I'm the rector of Trinity Church in Fredericksburg. My comment is down under the Episcopate. I noticed that there's $2,000 that's set aside for reserve for Lambeth. With Lambeth not occurring or not being planned for any time soon, I'm just wondering if that expense is necessary this time around.
Yeah, so E1F, so that is a reserve that we built over,
Page 3.
sorry, page 3, E1F. So that is a reserve that is built over time so that the expense doesn't hit us all in one year.
But my question is that Lambeth is not going to be occurring in 88. I mean, in 18. It was originally supposed to be, and there's no plan for any more Lambeths to be held, according to the current Archbishop of Canterbury, or they're going to be delayed some time. I just was wondering how much we're going to build up that Lambeth account.
I think we'll continue to make reserves for it, but it may be of a lesser amount in the next year. But I'm not aware of anything that says that there'll be no more Lambeth converts, and it's quite frankly, it's an expense that we do need to make reserves for.
Yes, Kent, this is Bishop Shannon. I have had the chance to speak with Archbishop Justin about that, and he certainly is delaying Lambeth, but he is also planning for it at the same time. And my understanding is that the delay will not be any more than 3 or 4 years.
Okay, that makes sense then.
Thank you.
All right, let's see if we have any additional comments or questions. No. Amitri, I've placed you off of mute. You can speak now. Amitri, did you have a question? Okay, feel free to type it if that doesn't come through.
Came up over the top.
That's already been answered. Case, I see that you have your hand raised, but it looks like you're no longer connected to audio. So if you could type that question in, I could read it on your behalf. I have a written comment from Laura Insco. Laura is at St. John's Church Hill in Richmond, and I'm going to read that on her behalf. A suggestion in response to Amitri's comment. Maybe at council, someone could announce that donations could be made to Canon Wingo's discretionary fund to assist deacons with expenses. Instead of adding it to the diocesan budget, those with funds could assist. I'd make a contribution for this. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your comment.
We've got another question coming from, it's on its way from Case. We'll wait a moment for that question. Take your time, Case. Okay. Case's question. Could the committee's case of All Saints Sharon's Chapel, Case Ramey, could the committee speak to the decision not to increase the budget for the Committee on Race Relations?
Well, I think yes.
So, like most of, sorry? Oh, it's a good question.
Page 3.
Page 3.
5B.
5B, okay.
Page 3, 5B.
Right. So, looking across that entire category, the budget for each of those items, like almost every other budget item in this budget, is flat year over year.
And it's flat also. I mean, it's flat also. It's not because it's not have anything to do with any of the programs or the ministries. It has a lot to do with the fact that we need to keep these areas flat because the amount of pledges that we're receiving from different parishes. So we're working with, we have a balanced budget of $5 million, but we're working with exactly what we are receiving from the parishes, and there really are no significant increases across the board in any program.
All right, thanks, Case, for that question. I have another written question from Amitri Bean of Little Fork. Page 2, what is the status of the Committee on Ministry and Daily Life? Excuse me, I see they have no funding.
Yes.
And whoever if you identify the
4D.
4D.
So I can't speak to the activities of that committee, but they received no funding in 2014 and keeping the budget flat. There's no allotment in 2015.
There was no request.
All right.
There was no request for funding either.
No request for funding is the answer to that question. All right, I'm going to scroll through. Remember, you can raise your hand if you Amitri had the same question about the task force on parish nurses, and again, there was no request. Scanning through, looking for more raised hands. All right. Looks like Case, you're back on audio. Case, I've unmuted you.
Thank you very much. My name is Case Ramey. I'm the rector of All Saints Sharon Chapel in Alexandria. I apologize for the technical difficulties. I caught what I believe was the tail end of the response to my written question about the Committee on Race Relations and the funding thereof, and understood that the idea was that the funding across the board is essentially flat in an attempt to maintain a balanced budget. How much visibility is expected to be given to council for those areas, or justification for those areas in these sort of flat times that are not flat? For example, 3A, the Committee on Mission and Outreach, which I'm happy to see has received a more than 50% increase in its budget. Is there detail that's provided as to why that decision was made for that increase over other increases? Yes, is there more detail there?
So, say that again. Which category?
Yes.
So mission.
3A. 3A. He's talking about 3A. 3A.
Right. So did we put the requests out there?
They're not public.
Okay, that was for our budget.
The narrative budget for this.
Yes. So that'll be addressed in the narrative budget.
And will the narrative budget, pardon me for not remembering the flow of council, will the narrative budget be available prior to the open hearing on Thursday, is it? Where we get a chance to speak to this again?
I believe it will, yes, and I think it'll be available on the website, yes.
Right.
Thank you.
Maybe even very soon. It will be on the website very soon, we are told. Maybe even this week is the impression that I'm getting from faces at this time. Thanks, Case. I'll place you back on mute. I'm doing a scan through for additional questions. Going to give everyone, since there's lots to sift through, we'll give everybody a couple more minutes just to make sure that nobody has additional comments. But right now I'm not seeing any. I have another question from Amitri. Would the committee please include a reason for doubling the budget of the Committee on Stewardship? Thank you.
Okay.
I'm going to locate that line item on the website and then respond to your question.
Yeah. So I just want to make sure I'm looking at the right number.
Go page 2.
Right. So I see Dimitri's follow-up. We would include that in the narrative budget. Yes.
Yes, that will be included in the narrative. So be on the lookout for that narrative budget, folks, on the council website. I'll take this time to remind folks that if you have additional comments, you may send them to the committee via email at budget@thediocese.net. You can also send to the Resolutions Committee at resolutions@thediocese.net. And those will be transmitted to the appropriate committee members. There will be an open hearing for the budget group on Friday of council. I believe we start at around 1:45. Yes, 1:45 on the Friday of council. So if you have additional comments, you can participate in an in-person hearing as well. And we'll be voting on the budget on the Saturday of council. Okay, Karen, I'm not seeing any additional questions or comments.
Okay, well, thank you for everyone's participation. We look forward to seeing you at council.
All right, thanks, committee members. Great.
Thank you.
All right, well, folks, we're going to do another quick switch around. We're going to start much earlier than we anticipated with the amendments with the Constitution and Canons group. Well, I think we're going to shoot to start them at 11:30. Does that sound good to everyone at the table? Yes, I'm getting head nods. So we're going to get started in 10 minutes. Again, if you don't mind sitting tight while we switch out the committees, and we'll be back with you momentarily. Thanks so much for your patience. Folks, we're going to get started here in just a few minutes. Thanks for sitting tight. We've got the committee on Constitution and Canons in the room. Excuse me. And we'll be getting started shortly. I'm going to put you back on mute for the moment. All right, welcome back, everyone. We're ready to get started with the open hearing with the Committee on Constitution and Canons. Let me turn on our webcam, and we've got our committee members here. Quick reminder for those of you who have just joined us. If you have a question, please click the Raise Hand button located on the left-hand side of your control panel, and I will unmute you so you can speak directly with the committee. Please remember to identify yourself and limit your comments to 2 minutes in length. I believe those are all of the housekeeping details we have. If you have any trouble connecting via audio when I acknowledge you, you can also send a written question through your control panel. So for now, I'm going to get ready and turn things over to the committee chaired by J.P. Causey. J.P.?
Good morning. Welcome to the pre-council hearing, open hearing for the Committee on Constitution and Canons. I have several members of the committee here with me at Mayo House, and there are some also, I believe, logged on the web. The committee is here to listen, to hear what you have to say to us. We may ask you some questions. You're welcome to ask us questions, but we may or may not answer them because we will not be engaging in debate with you on the resolution. So we have one resolution before us labeled C1. It's submitted by the Reverend Robert Pritchard. It proposes an amendment to Canon 10, which currently Canon 10 has a provision for establishment of a mission by a founding church. This would be a parallel process which would enable the founding of a mission by a theological seminary. The process and the procedures are identical to those for a mission established by a founding church, except that instead of a founding church, you have a founding seminary, and the president and the dean would serve the role of the rector of the founding church. According to the background that Bob Pritchard provided, this would reinstate a practice which existed in the first half of the 19th century and existed explicitly in the canons from 1938 to 1953. If Bob Pritchard is logged in, we would welcome an initial comment from him as the proposer of this resolution, but I have not seen his name listed. Emily's going to do a quick scan.
That's correct. I do not see his name listed.
Okay, we're not finding Bob, so does anyone else have questions or comments on C1?
I have seen a question submitted via writing from Margaret Jones. Please define the mission of a theological seminary. Is it a church or a seminary?
The mission would be a mission. The procedure is that you can found a church can found a mission. This would say that a seminary could do the same thing and found a mission under the supervision of the seminary as opposed to being under the supervision of a founding church, as well as in both cases being under the supervision of the bishop.
Thank you. I have a question submitted via writing from John Lowe. Why was this removed in 1953?
I do not know.
Well, you've got your answer there, John. We do not have the answer to that question.
We'll try to find out before council.
Okay, great. So hopefully by council we'll have that answer. I have a hand raised from Case Ramey. Case, you've been placed off mute and you can speak with the committee.
Hello, my name is Case Ramey. I am the rector of All Saints Sharon Chapel in Alexandria. And in the efforts of full disclosure, I am one in a long line of beneficiaries of a mission of the seminary, now a parish in this diocese. So just to put that out there. My question is, has there been any input from the dean of Virginia Theological Seminary as to this amendment, and what capacity was Dr. Pritchard acting in? Was he acting as an agent of the seminary and on its behalf making this submission, or was he acting as a canonically resident clergy in the diocese and a member of council? Thank you.
I have not talked to Bob Pritchard about this, so I do not know any more than he submitted the resolution individually. I don't know any more about it.
This is Ed Jones, the Secretary of the Diocese. I can't specifically respond to your question about whether Bob was acting in the formal capacity of an agent for the seminary. However, in submitting it, I do know he was submitting it in the context of some long-range planning that the seminary is doing, and though there are no immediate plans to establish any missions, I believe the thought was in the context of long-range planning now underway by the seminary, it would be helpful to restore this as at least a possibility.
Thank you. I'd be interested to hear from, I guess, from either from members of that long-range planning committee or the dean as to their opinion of this amendment.
We will put out some inquiries and try to have that information available.
Thank you.
All right, thanks, Case. Amitri, I've taken you off mute, and you can speak with the committee.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Thank you.
Just as a question, I think Chase said that he was the product of a parish that was once a mission.
Dimitri, if I could interrupt you, could you please give your parish name again? I know you've already given it before.
Oh, I'm sorry. My name is Dimitri Monica Bean. I'm the deacon at Little Fork Episcopal Church in Rixieville, Virginia.
Thank you.
My question is this. I think I heard Chase say that he was the product of a parish that was once a mission of the seminary. Could the committee give examples of any parishes or current missions that are missions of the seminary?
We lost Julia Randall, who could have answered that question. My understanding has been that All Saints Sharon Chapel was founded by the seminary. I don't know whether it would fit under the scope of the canon that existed before 1953 or not.
No, because we were founded during the Civil War, or before the Civil War. Okay. So I don't think we were under this canon. So I don't think we were actually a mission, but they did support the church, and they were the preachers of the church for a number of years.
And that is,
I'm Jane Delbridge from Old St. Sharon Chapel.
All right. Other than that, I don't know the answer to the question. Again, we can try to get some additional background information. Bob Pritchard probably knows off the top of his head, but he's not available.
all right, thank you, Amitri. I'm going to do a quick scan through and see if there are any other questions or comments about C1. Currently, let's see, I'm going to unmute Cindy Bartol. Cindy, you can speak with the committee now.
Thank you. Cindy Bartol, Christ Church, Alexandria. I have a question in the background section where Bob uses the 19th century but uses dates specific 1938 to 53. So is it really the first half of the 19th or the 20th century? It might be something to double check.
I will ask Cindy. I read that to mean it was a practice, perhaps not canonical, that dated to the first half of the 19th century, and then a canonical process from 1938 to 1953, but we'll ask Bob for clarification on that also.
I wrestled that way too. Thank you.
All right, thanks, Cindy. Doing another scan through for raised hands or questions. Right, I am seeing none right at this time. JP, do you have any other comments to add?
No, thank you for your input, for all of those who commented. We do have another open hearing at 1:45 on Friday at Council, and we would welcome your comments then. The comments here will be circulated to the other members of the committee, so they will all have the benefit of what you said, even if they didn't show up here.
Great.
Thank you very much.
I do have one additional hand raised from Case Ramey. Case, you can speak with the committee.
Thank you. I had I'm sorry, my name is Case Ramey. I'm the rector of All Saints Sharon Chapel in Alexandria. I had a question not relevant to C1, and tried to slide it in here at the very end. The Committee on Resolutions mentioned in our previous hearing that the Constitutions and Canons Committee would be submitting an amendment based on R2, which is the change of name from annual council to annual convention. Could you confirm that comment, and if so, could you elaborate on the plans for that amendment?
What Jennings said. Under the rule, well, the sequence, first of all, is that we will have another open hearing, but the Committee on Resolutions report will be considered and voted on before the Committee on Constitution and Canons reports on Saturday morning. If R2 is adopted, The committee will be prepared to submit an implementing resolution in the form of amendment to the Constitution. That would be on first reading and is permissible under the rules of order that a committee can generate a resolution without a 2/3 vote and 600 copies.
Excellent. Thank you.
All right. Seeing no additional hand raises or questions, I think we're ready to put an end and close our first official pre-council webinar. If you do have additional comments for the Committee on Constitution and Canons, you may email them at amendments@thediocese.net. Please check the council website on Monday if you'd like to share a recorded version of this webinar with other members of your church or team. We'll be sending out some email updates, important email updates about council in the coming week, including some important information about dining options, agenda updates, and all sorts of fun stuff. So I'm looking forward to communicating with you, and we're all looking forward to seeing you January 22nd through the 24th at the downtown Richmond Marriott. Any questions or comments, you may reach me at echerry@thediocese.net. For now, I think we're ready to close, and everyone have a great weekend. Thanks for joining us, folks.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.